Hey everybody, I'm C. Andrew Nelson, founder of Aquatasy. Welcome to another Aquatasy Live. First and foremost, let me ask, is my microphone working? Can somebody tell me that? Just need to check that because last time we had a terrible time. Oh my gosh, it was the worst live stream ever. It's hilarious. If you want to watch it, it's hilarious. But is my microphone working? If somebody can tell me that, I would greatly appreciate it. Looking here at the chat to see if everything's working. Can you hear me? Mic is good. Excellent. Excellent. All right. So, welcome to another Aquatasy live stream. And the theme for this time is keeping it simple. In fact, I'm keeping it so simple, I didn't even dress up for you guys. I didn't change. I've been doing chores around the house here for hours. I'm still wearing my grubby clothes. I'm having a bad hair day, so I'm wearing the hat. Shout out to everybody in Santa Fe, New Mexico. This is where I bought the hat. So we're just going to have some fun. We're going to keep it simple, and we're going to talk about how to keep things simple with our aquariums and with this hobby, because it is so easy to get in over our heads. It is so easy to try to do stuff that's just way too elaborate, and we can suck all the joy out of the experience of keeping fish and keeping aquariums if we don't remember to sometimes keep it simple. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Also, I just wanted to do a live stream today because I've been working on videos for you. I've been working on a lot of new videos. I know I haven't posted anything since the 1st of March, and I'm sorry about that. I've been extremely busy working on some other projects. In fact, the main project I've been working on, and I've mentioned this a couple of times before in the live streams, is a 7-part superhero audio drama called Heroes of Extinction that I am the co-producer of, along with Jerry Cornell, and I am the director, and I'm the narrator for it. So I'm wearing a lot of hats, not just this one, wearing a lot of hats on that project, and it's a fun project, and it's picking up a lot of steam lately. And I've been busy with that and some other cool projects as well. But I am not trying to neglect you guys. I'm not trying to neglect Aquatasy. I just needed to take a little break from that for a moment, but we are back with making videos. And rather than waiting and making you wait until I finished editing the videos that I already have in production for you, I thought, let's just do a live stream. Let's keep it simple and just jump on here so it's just me and you, and we can chat, and we can talk about fish, obviously. We can talk, because that's what the channel's about. And we can talk about all things related to the hobby, but we can also talk about whatever you feel like talking about. Okay? So let's chat. In fact, let's start by bringing up the chat and saying hi to everybody who's here. Shelly is here. Hello, Shelly. Good to see you. I know you're always going to be the first one right there in the chat. So, GV Aquariums from Australia. Wonderful. Wonderful to see you. Always great chatting with you in the comments on YouTube. So that's fun. Good to see you. Patricia is here. Patricia Gilliam is a wonderful writer, a fantastic novelist, and she has written a project that I'm also working on right now called Extinguished Worlds. We're doing this as an 8-part audio drama. And I've been working on that, and I'm just really thrilled that it's an amazing, incredible story of superheroes and supervillains and time travel and all kinds of things. And she's also written a novelization of it, which is amazing as well. That's going to be coming all out later this year. So hello, Patricia. And Chad is here. Hello, Chad. Always good to see you, Chad. So I have been a little bit busy, and I'm sorry I've been vacant from this spot here, but I'm back. And last time I did not keep it simple. I tried to do a very elaborate live stream for you, spent hours, days prepping it, setting things up. I had 3 cameras rolling. I had 3 cameras attached to this computer and trying to get all that rolling for you. And all kinds of graphics and videos and everything like that, and everything that could go wrong went wrong. And I know you all had a wonderful laugh at my expense in the chat there. If you haven't seen that live stream, which I totally renamed as worst live stream ever, go check it out just for the morbid curiosity of it, and watch the chat, read the chat in there, because the stuff that you guys typed in there, and very rightly so, was hilarious. So, but this time we're keeping it simple. I haven't done a whole bunch of that. We don't have extra cameras set up. I don't have lots of props and visuals. We're just going to chat, and we're going to chat about, like I said, keeping it simple. So, but first, let me just see how you guys are doing. And so they're telling me my mic is good. Yes, it's working. That's good. Chad says 4x5. Okay, I don't know the meaning of that at this moment in this particular context. Can you give me some context there, Chad? Shelley wants to know, how am I? I'm doing okay. I'm trying not to stress out. A lot of irons in the fire right now. A lot of things going on. Most of it really good. So that's good. But and some very exciting stuff coming up for me, personally, professionally, all that stuff. But I've actually been trying to just chill out. I'm trying to get back to doing lots of maintenance on my tanks and getting and again, I'm trying to keep it simple. I put too much pressure on myself to make things crazy and elaborate, and I make myself crazy in the process. But I'm trying to be okay now, so I'm doing well. I'm doing well. By the way, of course, always, if you want to support the Aquatasy channel and make sure that we can get lots of programming out there for you, Super Chat is enabled. So if you want to make sure, if for some reason something goes whizzing by in the text, right, in the chat right now, and I don't see it, and I don't see your question or your comment, if you really want to make sure that it's flagged and I can see it right away, you can always do it as Super Chat. And you help support the Starlight Children's Foundation also. A portion of the proceeds go to that. Same thing goes for any merchandise that you buy from Aquatasy, from the Aquatasy store, any of the t-shirts or mugs or anything like that. It all goes to help build this channel, and it doesn't go into my pocket or anything like that. It goes back into this channel, and it goes to help the Starlight Children's Foundation. And if you want to find out more about them, you can go to starlight.org. and learn all about them. I've been supporting them since 2005. They are just a wonderful organization that helps children that are ill and in need of reminding that they're still children in whatever they're going through. That they still have a childhood. That their focus shouldn't be always on this treatment or that therapy or this surgery or whatever. So that's what I do. When I do that also when I do convention appearances and things. Speaking of convention appearances, I've got several coming up. So if you happen to be in the San Francisco Bay Area, I happen to be here. If you happen to be in the San Francisco Bay Area as well, I will be doing a convention in Vacaville, California at the Vacaville Nut Tree, the Nut Tree Airport at the Roland Freedom Center. It is the Militaria G.I. Joe and Toy Show there, put on by a very dear friend of mine, Charlie Soto. And I will be there along with Alan Fernandez, one of the original Tusken Raiders from the first Star Wars, riding on top of the Bantha. He will be there, and dancer extraordinaire Cooley Jackson is going to be there. My buddy Cooley Jackson. He was on Solid Gold back in the 80s, one of the dancers there. He was in the Break-In movies, and he was part of the live touring show of the Power Rangers. And I know Shelley knows him, and he's a wonderful guy. So this is a fun convention that I'll be going to later at the end of this month, here, last day of the month, on April 30th. So if you're going to be in the San Francisco Bay Area, come on out and say hi. Also, if you happen to be streaming, or joining the stream from anywhere in the UK, well, at least near Coventry, I will be in Coventry, England on May 7th at CovCon, and that's going to be a fun convention there. And I'll be there with other Star Wars actors and people from the James Bond movies, and that's going to be a great time there. And if you want to find out where I'm going to be at any particular moment as far as conventions are concerned, you can go to the my official website, not the Aquatasy website, my official website as a performer, and that's candrewnelson.com, and you can go to the events page and you can find out everything there. So, pardon me whilst I take a little sip of water here and see what you have to say in the. Oh, okay, all right. Chad's saying that the 4.5 was the sound check. Sound check, yes. Yeah, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see here. Patricia says, after we move, I think it would be fun to have a small saltwater setup. Any tips for newbies? Yeah, if you've never kept an aquarium ever, I would recommend you probably start with freshwater. It's a little easier, it's a little more forgiving, and it's a whole lot cheaper. whole lot cheaper. The reason I don't do saltwater myself is, and I love saltwater aquariums. I would love to have a reef aquarium, but I know that I don't have the time to do the maintenance on it. You have to keep the water chemistry and the salinity. You have to stay on top of that. I probably wouldn't do corals myself, live corals, because that requires a little bit of care and a lot of knowledge, and that's not where my knowledge base is. But it is getting easier to do saltwater aquariums, which is nice. And you can do smaller ones without having to deal with it. The one thing that I say, and I'm going to get into that when I talk about keeping it simple, is that if you want to do saltwater tank, make sure you do your research. Really look up on what it takes to do it, and the fish the fish species that you're interested in, and what their requirements are. And I always suggest this to everybody who wants to get into the hobby, whether it's on the freshwater or the saltwater side, and that is to get the largest aquarium you can possibly afford, as far as both cost but also as space, space in your home for it. Because the larger the aquarium, the easier it is to maintain. I know that doesn't seem to make sense, but we'll talk about that later as we get into keeping it simple here. But yeah, saltwater is it's fun. I don't know. My opinion is that it's not necessarily for newbies, but I could be wrong. And if there's anybody who's watching right now who does keep saltwater aquariums, and you have a lot of experience in it, tell me if that is and tell Patricia and tell everybody if that is a good way to start as a newbie. But it is expensive. I will let you know. I think everything is at least twice as expensive on the saltwater side, from the livestock to the tanks to the equipment, everything. So it's usually a lot more expensive, and that's the other reason why I'm not on the saltwater side of the hobby there, because that's an added expense. So, alrighty here. Shelley says, enjoying your live streams and hanging out with you at the Comic-Cons. Yes, always good to see you there at the Comic-Cons. Let's see. Chad says, brackish would be a good transition from fresh to saltwater. Yes, it would. A brackish aquarium is one that is not full-on saltwater, but it is an aquarium that is salted. So if you think about where a tributary, like a river or a stream, meets up with a body of salt water, like the ocean or something like that, where that area is, where there's a mingling of the two, of the salt water and the fresh water, that would be the brackish area. And there are some very interesting, wonderful fish that you can get in that area. And also there are a few plants that'll actually survive in a brackish tank as well, that aren't going to completely dissolve or whatever under that. So brackish, if you want to try to make the transition, yeah, brackish would be a good way to go. In fact, that may be, if I ever start moving towards having saltwater, maybe I'll do a brackish tank first, because there are some brackish fish that I like a lot too. So that would be fun. So, talking about keeping it simple. The reason we want to keep it simple is because we have a better chance of enjoying this hobby sometimes. When we first start out, when we start planning for an aquarium, we can sit around and we can do all kinds of planning and we can start dreaming, and we do this, this sort of this blue sky ideas of what we want to do with our aquariums, and that's fun. That's I never discourage people from doing that. But at a certain point, just like any dream, you got to start turning it into a goal. You have to start making it a reality. And a lot of times we want to do way too much. Like we want to design this amazing aquascape. We want to get these exotic fish. We want to try all these different plants. We want to do get all this stuff. And sometimes we need to dial that back, because maybe we don't have the time to do all that. Maybe we don't have the money or the resources. Maybe we don't have, maybe we find out that it's much more work than we thought it would be, and then by the time we sit down to enjoy it, we can't, because we're just too exhausted, or we never get it to where we want it to be. So sometimes by keeping it simple, we have a better chance of actually enjoying this hobby. And that's something I've had to teach myself, because I try to do things that are just way too elaborate sometimes. And you're going to hear me say the word elaborate quite often today, because it really is kind of the stumbling block on a lot of these things. We don't realize how elaborate our plans and our goals are when we're doing our setups for our tanks. But we can keep it simple. And there's a lot of ways of keeping it simple that when you do keep it simple, you're not necessarily limiting yourself in a way that stops you from enjoying the hobby. The idea, when we're doing this, the idea is that, and I wrote it down because I thought this was good here, is like we can give up the elaborate while still holding on to the challenge, while still holding on to the fun of it, because we can still make it challenging. Simple doesn't mean dull. It doesn't mean dull. It doesn't mean unchallenging. We can still make it challenging, but by keeping it simple, we get rid of all the red tape, the mental red tape that we have for things, and we get rid of all the obstacles and the stumbling blocks and the time wasters and all the things that prevent us from actually enjoying the hobby. So keeping it simple starts with the aquarium itself. So think about the tank size. I mentioned this when I was answering Patricia's question there, but think about the tank size. Think about your space in your home. What space do you have in your home for an aquarium? And figure out, okay, what can I fit in there? What can I logically fit in there in this space? And sometimes smaller isn't better. Sometimes bigger isn't better. You find what's going to work for you. And I've got lots of different sized tanks. I've got, this is a 16-gallon tank over here. Behind me is a 5.5-gallon tank. In the outside of the fabulous Aquatasy studios, aka the former garage, inside the house, I've got 2 20-gallon tanks. One in our family room, one in my daughter's room, and then my son has his 36-gallon bow front. So we've got tanks of varying sizes. Each one of those presents different challenges, different difficulties, different advantages. And you tailor it to that. So you want to keep it simple by just figuring out ahead of time what size tank you want, what size tank you need, what size tank you can afford, and what size tank you can maintain, and what's going to be the least headache for you. And again, cost is going to be a factor as well, because sometimes the tanks aren't going to cost what you think they are. Sometimes I've got a 10-gallon tank down here too, which has got my sassy back talking fish in it, who are being very quiet because they're still upset with me. Sometimes a 10-gallon kit will cost more than a 20-gallon, believe it or not, depending on where you buy it, when you buy it, that sort of thing. But find what's going to fit for you, what's going to work for you there. Let me go back to the chat for a moment here. Let's see. Trisha says, thank you, that's interesting. We have Alexander has joined us here. Lots of plants and just Corys. That is one way of keeping it simple. It very definitely is keeping it simple that way. In fact, I'm going to talk about that. I'm definitely going to talk about plants, because that's on the freshwater side, that is one way of keeping it simple or making it really hard for yourself, depending on what you choose with plants there. But let's talk about aquascaping a little bit. I know we can go through YouTube, we can see a lot of different channels. One of my favorite channels right now on YouTube is MD Fish Tanks, and if you go and check out MD's tanks, he's got this beautiful, he's got 2 galleries, 2 rooms, 2 different galleries that he's got like 50 tanks all set up, but he himself learned how to keep it simple, and he does these very beautiful, very, in some ways, intricate aquascapes, but he doesn't ever do it so intricate, so elaborate, there's that word again, that he can't maintain it, or that it causes headaches for him. And it's finding a balance there. When it comes down to the aquascaping, you got to think about, okay, do you want something stylish, or do you want something elaborate and intricate? They're not necessarily the same thing. You can do something that's very elaborate, very intricate, that is also very stylish, but you can do something that's very simplified, that's very stylish and very, pleasingly, aesthetic pleasingly. You look at art of any kind, and I think aquascaping is an art. You go to a gallery somewhere, and you see paintings, you see sculptures, you see things like that, and you'll find some are very, very detailed, some are abstract, some are very minimalist, but they all can have a very nice, clean aesthetic. They can all be very pleasing to the eye. And the same thing goes with aquascaping and setting up your hardscape. You can use lots of different pieces of wood and very intricate little. I'm using the same adjectives again. I got to get a thesaurus or something here. But you're using different pieces of wood that has lots of little tiny spindly bits. In fact, here, okay, I'm just going to take a moment. I'm going to walk away from the camera for a moment. Hold on a second. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm keeping it so simple that I'm doing everything on the fly here, folks, just for fun. Just grabbing a little prop. See, I didn't set this up ahead of time, and already we're running better than the last time we did a live stream. We're already running better. Look at that. So you could have tons of little branches like this in a tank, and it might look great. It might look very good. But you could have something just as stylish with a bigger piece of wood, a simple piece of wood, a few stones, whatever. And you find what's going to keep it so that you can enjoy it without having to spend, hours, days, weeks setting it up, unless that's what you really enjoy. And putting it all together and trying to maintain it, because you have to realize that when you're going through and you're cleaning your tank and that sort of thing, if you've got stuff like this in there, you got to go in and around and amongst it to try to get to where the schmutz is, where all the stuff that you want to get out of the tank. So make a choice before you even start setting up the tank. Figure out your hardscaping materials and figure out what you want to use that both looks good, but find the compromise between that and what's easy to deal with. Okay? Am I making sense here? Okay, so Alexander says, super glue and driftwood and moss. Japanese moss ball is a must. For some people, yeah, definitely. I love moss. I love using moss in planted aquariums. Java moss, Christmas moss, Taiwan moss, all of that. It's good. It's an easy plant to use, and I'm going to be talking to about that when I get to the planting section of my notes here. See, I'm keeping it simple. I even made little notes for myself on my phone. You can't see that because it's all blown out. But I'm keeping it simple here. So I'm trying to find a balance of things of what looks really visually appealing to me and what is going to be easy for me to maintain. So you want to think about that when it comes down to your hardscape. The same thing goes with the substrate as well. I know we have lots of different kinds of substrate available to us. We've got we've got gravel, we've got aqua soil, we've got sand, we've got tons of different, everything in between. Find a way that makes it easy for you, so that maybe you want to use just one kind of substrate. Maybe you think, I don't want to deal with plants, I don't want to deal with anything like that, I'm just going to put gravel in there. Fine, that works. You might say, hey, what works for me, what I love to do is I want a really lush planted aquarium. So maybe you've got to do more with the substrate. So you put some aqua soil in there. Maybe you put some gravel on top of that to cap it off. One thing that you can do, and prep ahead of time, planning this stuff out ahead of time, really helps keep it simple later, is by having some very coarse gravel at the bottom, very thick coarse gravel. And I'm not talking like little tiny things. I'm talking about good sized. Let me see if I got something like that. Bigger grain gravel like this. Come on, focus, focus, focus. It won't focus. Never mind. All right, but something like that, or larger, at the bottom, and then you put your nutrient layer on top of that, with some aqua soil or something like that, and then cap it off with sand, and then maybe some decorative stuff over that. By doing it that way, what happens is that gives water a chance to flow through that bottom layer. Because if you put something that compacts very tightly like sand all the way at the very bottom, water flow is not going to go through there, and you're going to end up with a lot of debris and detritus and everything that just sits and doesn't go where it needs to go. It doesn't get picked up by the filter. It doesn't break down the way it should. But by having that water flow through there, it keeps things a lot cleaner, and that keeps it simpler later on for you. So that's something to consider when you're doing the aquascaping there. Also, think about I think I've covered a lot of the things I'm talking about here. And then the cost. You don't have to get expensive with this hobby. A lot of us have a backyard. Sometimes we go out there and we say, hey, I see some rocks. Doesn't mean you have to go to the store and go buy, fancy rocks from your local fish store or the pet shop. You can just dig up some rocks. Make sure you test them, so you know that they're not going to be, breaking down and changing the water chemistry in your tank. You can take, I guess I don't have it with me here, but you can take something as simple as pH down, a little API pH down, and drip some on the rock and test it to see if it fizzes. If it fizzes, then that's not a good one for your tank. You can do the same thing with vinegar, but it's not as strong an acid as the pH down. But that's something you can do there. Let me go back to the chat because I want to make sure that I'm not ignoring you guys here. Shelley says, keeping things simple in general is always a good thing. It is. Life is complicated enough as it is. It doesn't have to be. And your little portion of life, your little part of the world doesn't have to be, crazy and all that. You can keep it simple around you as a way to kind of, stave off the craziness and the madness that's around you. And it keeps you calm, and then you're able to deal with everything else in life much easier that way. And that's one of the reasons I have fish tanks. I don't know about you, but that's one of the reasons I have fish tanks, is because I need it to chill out. I work in the entertainment industry, and at any given moment it feels like there's a multi-million-dollar production sitting on your shoulders waiting for you to get your part of it done. And that's a lot of pressure. And that is the truth. It does. It is. There really is a multi-million-dollar production many times sitting on your shoulder waiting for you to get your part of it done. And so rather than stress out, I go chill out in front of my fish tanks. And right now I've got one tank that's got a beautiful little female betta. If you've been on the Aquatasy Instagram account, you've seen pictures of her there. Her name is Ophelia. She was a rescue fish that I picked up recently, and she's just wonderful. And I just kind of sit back and I watch her swim around. She's this beautiful, dark, deep blue, which is my favorite color. And I get to watch her, and it helps me relax. So yeah, keeping it simple, is why, how we deal with things in life there. Chad says, so my current plan is to simplify, my current plan to simplify, this is a rental mouth. That's why I'm messing up. So my current plan to simplify is a bigger tank. That may at first sound counterintuitive, but it will be consolidating some species only tanks into a larger community tank. That is a perfect example of why a larger tank is better sometimes. A larger tank can be much better than having a whole bunch of little ones all over the place, because you got to maintain each one of these little ones. But if you can combine all of those species together, if they're all compatible as far as their water parameters, as far as their feeding, as far as their temperament and their ability to get along with each other without tearing each other apart or eating each other up, then yeah, that's a way of keeping it simple. And I think that's a smart way of doing it, Chad. So definitely. So let's move on to planting, because Alexander was talking about that. I love that you said, you were talking about moss on driftwood. You were talking lots of plants and just cories. That is definitely one way of keeping it simple. And so when it comes to planting, one way of keeping it simple is, figuring out your acquisition of the plants. How do you get your plants? There are some easy ways. There are some hard ways of doing it. And figure out what's going to work best for you, so that you're not stressing over, I got to get because a lot of times, this is what I do, is I plan out ahead of time. When I'm doing escape, I plan out ahead of time what plants I want. I sometimes I just go with what I have on hand. In fact, there's a escape that I'm planning to do. I'm working on the plans for it right now, and my plan for that escape, that tank, is going to be to use just what I have on hand. Only the hardscape materials and the plants that I have on hand, all themed around a particular country, because that's how I roll. I always pick a particular country, and I don't do necessarily a biotope, but what I do is I theme it around that country, so all the plants, all the invertebrates, all the fish are from that country. They're native to that country. Maybe they're not in the same waterways that they would be in the wild, but they're all from that particular country, and it's a nice little challenge for me, and it's a fun way of doing things without making it too crazy and elaborate. But so where do you get your plants from? Is it going to be easier and simpler for you to just go down to your local fish store and buy your plants there? Is it going to be simpler to do it by going to some chain pet store like PetSmart or Petco or something like that? Is it going to be simpler for you because, hey, I don't have the time to go shopping. I don't have stores nearby that have the plants that I want. Maybe it's simpler for me to order them online. And so I do a combination of both of those things. I'll go to my local fish store, Albany Aquarium. Shout out to Albany Aquarium. They're a wonderful store in Albany, California. Go check them out. That's not a paid endorsement. I just love those guys and that store and guys and gals there. And it's just a wonderful little mom and pop shop. And I go there, and they've got a wonderful selection of plants. They have some of my plants because I've actually traded in some plants there too. So a lot of the Java moss that I was giving away, Christmas moss that I had, I don't know what kind of moss it was. I gave away some to you guys, and I gave away or traded in for some store credit down there. So that's another way of keeping it simple too. If you've got an excess of something, whether it's fish species, because you've had fish spawn and everything, and you've got a bunch of fry or they've grown up already, or you've got an excess amount of plants, take it to your local fish store. See if they'll give you store credit or trade it in for something. That's a great way of keeping it simple in this hobby and keeping the cost down too. But maybe keeping it simple, like for me, sometimes is I'm not going to be able to buy certain things at my local fish store because they just don't have it. So a simple way of doing it is I order it online. And there's a lot of great stores, online stores that you can get your aquatic plants from, and that's what I do. That's one way of keeping it simple. And cost. You want to keep the cost down sometimes? Maybe that's what keeps it simple for you. I trade. I barter. I find my local fish clubs and my local hobbyist clubs. Here in the San Francisco Bay Area, we have the San Francisco Bay Area Aquatic Plant Society. Shout out to all of them. And we as members, we often trade plants back and forth. If we have a cuttings, from our plants, because we've done a trim on things, we offer it up to somebody else, or maybe we'll make a trade, or maybe we'll just give it away for free. Random acts of kindness. That helps a lot to keep things simple too. And also, even the placement of the plants, where we place different species in the tank, can keep it simple for us. Because it's easier to maintain, it's easier to get it to grow in this particular spot, or maybe it's easier to do water changes and vacuuming and stuff like that to clear things up. Maybe that's the way of keeping it simple, by where you place different plants, different plant species in your aquarium, in your layout. And then, figuring out ahead of time how much these plants are going to grow over time. How much light are they going to need? What are their requirements? Some plants grow very quickly, very, very fast. Some stem plants grow very fast. Some floating plants grow very fast. Some other plants are very slow growing plants. And is that going to make it easier for you? Is it going to make it harder for you trying to keep those plants? That's what you got to do. Do some research. Research is one way of keeping it simple. Doing a lot of research ahead of time before you ever set up an aquarium is key. And in fact, I'm going to be doing a video about researching things coming up soon, and some resources out there for doing that, because you don't have to fly blind, and you don't have to rely on what the young person or the old person at the local chain pet store is telling you, because a lot of times they just learned it off a brochure. And they may not necessarily know that stuff, they don't know it. So that's one thing to do. Also, think about, if you want to keep it simple, choose some very hardy plants. Choose some plants that are easy to grow. Some that I can think of, Anubias is one of the easiest plants to grow. You almost can't kill it. It's an epiphyte plant, which means it grows on surfaces. Like it grows on rocks. It anchors itself to rocks with its little roots. It's a rhizome plant. So you don't plant it into the substrate. You don't have to bury it in the gravel or whatever. It feeds from the water column, and it just grows on rocks. It grows on wood. Really simple. It's a very slow grower. It doesn't require a lot of light. It does well in low light. You can literally grow it in a closet with the light off. There was my grandfather years ago, before he passed away, he had a aquarium that had a whole bunch of Anubias in it, and Java fern, and that's another one that's very much like that, a very easy plant to use. He had a bunch of Anubias and Java fern in there, and after he passed, the tank had no fish in it left, and turned off the filter, turned off the lights, just left it sitting for about a year or two. And those things were still growing. They were still alive, and I took some and I had them, and I still have some of those from off of there that just sat in darkness for a couple of years. They're easy plants to grow, and they're very beautiful. Vallisneria is another easy plant too. It's a very simple plant, looks like tall blades of grass, and it was one of the earliest plants to ever be cultivated for the hobby and used in aquariums. Way back, way back, hundreds of years ago. And Sagittaria, another easy plant to grow. Looks like it's shorter than Vallisneria. Looks very similar to that. Hydrocotyle Japan, is a simple one. Very beautiful little delicate plant, but it grows easily. And a lot of the floating plants grow very easily too. Dwarf chainsword. I've got some of that in here. You probably can't see it, but I know it's very overgrown here. But back behind the dwarf hairgrass, and mixed amongst it, the taller ones here, that's dwarf chainsword, and it's part of the Amazon sword family of plants, but it normally grows very, very short and everything, and it's easy to grow and looks very nice. Water sprite is another one that is really, really easy to grow. You can anchor it into the substrate if you want and have it grow up like this, or you can just float it and let it go. And water wisteria is another one like that. So there are ways of having a beautiful planted aquarium without it being a maintenance headache, and keeping it simple and having it look beautiful. Let's go back to the chat here. I don't want to just keep stammering on here, just talking and ignoring you guys. Alexander said, so true. I've been just asking my neighbor for all of his round boulder rocks are free, and also don't hurt to go out in the wild once in a while. You'll find some. Yes, sometimes we can just sit here in our little fish room. We can sit in our house. We can, sit on our devices, and we're doing all this, this digital stuff. Get out into the analog world. Get some fresh air. Go somewhere. I mean, don't steal things out of somebody's yard. And I'm glad that you're actually like asking your neighbor and they're giving you, rocks and boulders. That's great. That's a great resource. But, go out somewhere. Go to a public beach. You can find wonderful rocks on the beach. And it's not illegal in most places to take rocks from the beach. Parks sometimes as well. And you can do that. If you want to, and you want to buy some, I've turned off my notes here, can't see what I'm doing. If you want to get rocks and cherry pick what you want, go to your local rock and soil company and see what the pricing is. You'll be surprised sometimes. I've got a wonderful rock and soil company here near me. It's Acapulco Rock and Soil, another free plug. I'm giving out all these free plugs to my favorite local businesses here, and they are wonderfully priced. They do a lot of big landscaping jobs and sell to people who do that sort of thing. But it's a great resource to go and just pick what you want rock-wise there, and it's not expensive. But yeah, get out and go hunting, do some rock hunting. I'm working on a video on that too. Let's see. Chad says, Alexander, almost all of my hardscape is free range. I like that, free range hardscaping. And that goes for the wood too. That goes for the wood. There's a lot of wood that you can get. You don't necessarily have to go to the store and buy Malaysian driftwood or Mopani wood or spider wood or stuff like that. You can get wood from the wild. Find some bogwood. If you've got a stream near you, a lot of times the wood that you find that's in the stream, you can take it home, dry it out, clean it off, boil it, get all the parasites out of it, and you're good to go. If you've got fruit trees anywhere near you, hardwood fruit trees, apple tree, cherry, a lot of those things, or trees like beech or birch or something like that. Those are things that if you've got some that that have been trimmed back, you let it dry out. You don't want to put green wood in your tank there, but get it dried out, strip off the bark, and it's a kind of a fun, and inexpensive way of doing it. But just go for what's not going to give you the biggest amount of headache. All right. So, but yeah, I love that free range. That's a good idea. Let's see. Chad says, I relate to that so much. I went from Pogostamen and Wisteria to Crypts and Anubias. No more trimmings to compost. Yes, some of these plants grow very fast. Now, there is actually an advantage to that, too, that I'm going to talk about when it comes to keeping it simple. Sometimes you want something that's fast growing. Because although it can be a maintenance chore to kind of trim it and keep it trimmed, it also can be very positive for you in other ways regarding maintenance. But yeah, I hear you on that one. For years, I was doing just Anubias and Java Fern and maybe a little Bacopa or a little Brazilian pennywort, something like that. Easy stuff to grow, nice and stylish. But now I've been branching out and doing other things too as I've studied more about it. And you don't always have to just scale it back to just the simple things. You can get more elaborate as you get more versed in the hobby. I've been at this hobby for something decades, and because I'm older than I look. I hope I look younger than I am. So I've been in this hobby for a long time, but I'm always constantly learning. And just in the last, even just the last few years, I've learned so much more. especially about planted aquariums, and I enjoy that. So for me, keeping it simple now means incorporating plants that were much harder before, when I was, maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But now that I know about them and I know how to care for them, that's part of keeping it simple for me. Because now I can do something a little more, God, I've got to get a thesaurus out here, find a different word for elaborate. I can do something more intricate, I can do something a little more advanced, well, that is advanced as far as the hobby is concerned, but is simple for me now because I've learned it, I've leveled up. So let's see here. Chad says, I don't know why, but I just hate this aversion to swords. I just have this aversion to swords. Oh, interesting. I'll tell you why. And I had an aversion to swords too for a long time. I love swords visually, but they always died on me. They always died on me until I realized that they are really heavy root feeders. Once I learned that they feed from their roots exclusively. They're not pulling stuff from the water column at all. They feed from their roots. And if you plant them with just some, a good substrate, like maybe some aqua soil capped off with something else like gravel so that, it doesn't get all over the place, or you plant them with some root tabs. Get some simple API root tabs. And God, I'm going to keep talking about API, and they should sponsor this channel. But API root tabs, they were great. I've done this with my son's tank. That's the video that I was recently editing, and I didn't get a chance to finish for today, so hopefully next week it'll be out. But I've rescaped my son's tank, and themed it around a different country of Peru. All right, I'll let the cat out of the bag. And it's very sword heavy, but by using some simple, and I mean simple, API root tabs, there's nothing simpler than pop it out, bury it in the substrate, put the plant on top of it, you're done. And it adds all kinds of nutrients right there to the roots. It doesn't spread out into the water column and give you a huge algae problem. It's perfect, and swords grow, and they're growing beautifully in this tank. So don't be afraid of swords. Or if you just don't like the look of them, then stay away from them. So, Alexander says, swords are always lovely. Yes, they are. I think so. And yes, hashtag free plug. Yes, I'm doing a lot of free plugs today here. And then Alexander says, lettuces. Yes, water lettuce is another one. I've got water lettuce in a lot of tanks. In fact, I just put some in a new tank there. They help out a lot. I'm going to get to that when we get to the maintenance part. They help out a lot with maintenance. Easy to grow. They provide all kinds of hiding space. The big, long, trailing roots have a nice hiding space if you have fry in your tank. It's fun. They add some shade to certain areas of your tank. They do multiply very fast, and they're much better than having duckweed in your tank. I'll tell you that much. Whew. As Dustin of Dustin Fish Tanks says, he refers to duckweed as the herpes of fish tanks, because you get it in there, it's almost impossible to get rid of it. But I have done it. I have gotten rid of it before, but it took a lot of work. It does have its benefits as well, because they do pull a lot of extra nutrients out of the water. They're heavy nitrate feeders, and if you got problems with nitrates, duckweed takes care of that. But so does water lettuce. So does a lot of things. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. Yes, so the nano water lilies, those are nice as well. Patricia says, great tips. I like the trading, bartering, discovery aspect. Yeah, it is. That for me is a big fun part of the hobby. Is doing all the trading and bartering. In fact, I made a promise to my wife when I started this channel. I made a promise to my wife Veronica that this channel would pay for itself. That the money that I spend on the aquariums, on making the videos, on all the stuff, all the content that I create for you guys, that it comes from the channel itself. So the AdSense money, the merch that anybody buys, and I thank everybody for that. After I've given a portion to the Starlight Children's Foundation, the rest goes right back into this channel, right back into these tanks. So I'm not spending a lot on it. So I am very frugal, and I'm always looking on Craigslist and I'm checking the different clubs around here, and I'm finding who's giving away stuff like that and what I can trade. Sometimes you see people selling stuff, but then they'll say, or we'll trade for this, or trade for that. And I do that. And it keeps the cost down, it keeps the hobby simple, and it's fun for me. For me it is. It's fun to go out and do that. So, Chad said, you said the D word. Yes, we are the knights who say duckweed. Yes, I mentioned duckweed. I know that's akin to mentioning the Scottish tragedy in theater. You don't mention the Scottish tragedy. I won't. If you want to know what the Scottish tragedy is, I mean, as an actor, there's all these superstitions about it. Go look it up. Go Google it. But the Scottish tragedy by Shakespeare, we don't mention that and we don't whistle in the dressing room, and we don't do any of that in theater. So it's forbidden. But yes. Okay, Alexander says shrimp substrate. Even though you don't get shrimp, you can use it. Yes, that is the truth. And I actually just ordered some. It just came in. Got it off of Chewy.com. And that's another way of keeping things simple. Is do you buy everything locally? I always try to support my local fish store as much as I can. They can't carry everything. They're one store. They're a mom and pop store. They're a small store. They can't carry everything. So what they do carry, I get from them. If it costs a little bit more, hey, fine. I'm supporting this store that supports me. So there are some things I can't get from them. And so I'll buy it online maybe. If I can't find it at other stores, I'll buy it online. And so Chewy.com, I'm giving another free plug out there, hashtag free plug. Chewy.com is another great way of doing it. I get a lot of things from there. And so I just ordered some substrate that is technically a shrimp substrate. It's good for shrimp. And one of the reasons why it's called a shrimp substrate is because it doesn't leach out things that would cause problems for the shrimp. It doesn't change the water chemistry drastically. And also it harbors nice little nutrients that the shrimp can kind of sift through and grab and eat and stuff like that. But I wanted something that was going to not change the water chemistry for a project that I'm working on, which is, yes, I've hinted it many times, but this shrimp face. Let me it'd be terrible if I drop this on a live stream. Okay, but this is something I inherited from the little giant brandy snifter type thing I inherited from my father-in-law when he passed away, that he used to keep in his man cave for years. But I am going to turn that into a shrimp vase, and I don't want to have anything that's going to create any kind of changes to the water chemistry while I do that. So otherwise I would use like ADA aqua soil. I've got a bunch of aquarium Amano design aquarium ADA aqua soil. See, I told you it's a rented mouth. That's why I'm having problems with it. Mine's in the shop right now. So I'm punchy. I better drink a little water here. But that is one way you don't have to use any kind of crazy substrate, but that for me, that's a good substrate actually. So moving on from where we were, are you enjoying this? Is this helpful? Is it making sense? Is it or am I just rambling? Okay. We're going to get to other stuff. I know we're coming up on 1 hour here, coming up on the top of the hour, and the second hour we'll just do free for all. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. But let me continue on here. One of the things that a way of keeping it simple, an area that we really should sometimes keep it simple, is equipment. When it comes down to the equipment for our aquariums, yeah, there's lots of stuff. I mean, a simple setup can be, a light, a lid, a filter, an air pump, a thermometer, and that's about it. A net, so for our fish, things like that. But it doesn't have to be crazy. We can keep it simple. But there's lots of products on the market that a lot of companies want to sell us, and tons of different kinds of filters. Some of them are more overblown than we'll ever need. Lots of different types of heaters and timers and various kinds of lighting, all kinds of lighting. Figure out, this is why the planning comes comes in play so early. It's so important to do planning for your projects and plan things out. Is figure out what you need besides what you want. Work towards what you want, but don't, just buy a whole bunch of great equipment because, some review online or somebody on YouTube said it was, the best stuff. Yeah, maybe it is the best stuff, but maybe it's not right for your situation. Maybe it complicates things for you, So do what's going to be simple for you so that you can spend time enjoying your fish, enjoying your tank. And lighting is one of those things. Find out when you figure out what kind of plants you want. Let's say you want to do a freshwater planted tank. Maybe you don't want to do a planted tank. So then it really doesn't matter what kind of light as far as growing plants. Maybe all you want is something that's going to illuminate your fish, the fish species, and we're going to get into stocking here, as far as what type of fish you want. Maybe you've got fish that are very colorful, but the color is not going to pop unless you have a certain kind of light on there. So maybe that's how you plan it. But maybe you don't need a big crazy LED light. Maybe just a simple fluorescent light is going to work for you. Maybe as far as equipment is concerned, maybe buying just an aquarium kit is going to work for you. Something that maybe you get a kit like Aquaon makes kits. There I go, plugging again. Another plug for it. Yeah, I like Aquaon. I like their products and everything, and they have in the past sponsored this channel. They're not sponsoring this video, but they have been a friend of the Aquatasy channel, and I appreciate that. But a lot of companies they will produce kits that you can get. You can get a 20-gallon kit, 10-gallon kit, whatever. It comes with a filter, comes with a light, comes with a net, comes with a little sample of fish food maybe, or water conditioner, and that's sometimes a great way of doing things because you don't have to hunt around for what's going to work together. You don't have to, buy your tank here, buy your filter there, figure out, it's a one-stop shopping thing. You buy a kit, you're done. Yeah, if it fits your needs. So that's why the planning comes into play here. Some lights, the tank that I'm going to be setting up eventually, hopefully. The one that I was talking about that I'm going to use, as far as the hardscaping materials and the plants are concerned, all the aquascaping, I'm going to use just found materials, meaning it's found here somewhere in the fabulous Aquatasy studios, and that's what I'm going to use for this. I'm not going to go off and buy anything specific for it as far as the plants and the hardscape materials, but I did buy a specific light for it. It was a kit that I got, and there's gonna be a video for it where I'm doing an unboxing and I'm reviewing the aquarium kit, but I've decided for myself I'm gonna get rid of certain things and replace them, and one of them was going to be the light because what I wanted to do with the tank needs some different lighting. But for me, that's gonna keep it simple, because if I keep trying to work with the light that came with that for what I have planned for this aquarium, it's gonna be a maintenance nightmare because I'm going to have to keep trying to keep these plants alive because it's not going to be enough light for it, and I'm going to have to do a lot of changes to my plan, and so for me that's the thing. So keep lighting in mind, keep the cost of the equipment in mind. Sometimes you can spend a lot of money on equipment and maybe you don't need to. Maybe there's a simpler solution that is just as effective. Also filtration too. There's lots of different kinds of filtration. What's going to be the best for your setup that you want to put together? What's going to be the best as far as what you want to put in there? I mean, maybe you've got fish that require some. You got your heart set on, say, some rainbow fish. They come from some fast-moving waters. They like a good current. So maybe the under gravel filter ain't going to work for that, or maybe the canister filter is not going to work. Maybe a hang-on back filter is not going to work. You've got to find what's going to work for you. The sponge filter is not going to give you, a lot of flow in the tank. Not at all. It's not going to give you any. Conversely, if you've got fish that require some still waters, some calm waters, maybe that simple sponge filter is going to be better than the more expensive and more, here's the word, elaborate. We could turn this into a drinking game, couldn't we? I don't even drink. But you could, maybe the hang-on back filter is not what's needed for that sort of thing. So, figure that out ahead of time, and that's a way of keeping it simple. And then heating as well. There are ways of heating tanks that's simpler than others. Okay, I've got tanks all over the place. I've got 3 out here, and this is, like I said, the fabulous Aquatasy Studios is actually our former garage. And right below me, right below my feet, is concrete floor. There's no heating out here, and so each one of these tanks has to be heated individually with its own heater. I've got 3 tanks in the house, but they're in separate rooms. Each room has a little bit different temperature in it, and we don't keep the house, at like 78 degrees or something like that. So, which is what most of these tanks are set for. So I have to have individual heaters on those. So I can't keep it simple in that sense. I mean, it's simple in the fact that I bought heaters that, since I know that each one of these tanks is a tank that the fish in it, they require somewhere around 78 degrees. So I bought heaters that are fixed. They are always going to be set for 78 degrees. Now, your situation, maybe you want fish, maybe you're going to have fish that require higher temperature. So maybe you want something that's adjustable. So that's going to be keeping it simple for you. Maybe you don't even want to deal with heating. So you decide, I'm going to go with cold water fish. And I've got a whole video on that. It was one of the Aquatasy countdown videos. Nine fish species mistakenly sold as tropical. And it's a whole thing about fish that get sold as tropical, but they're not necessarily tropical fish. They come from cooler waters. Well, maybe you want to get some fish like that. Maybe you want to get some zebra danios or some white cloud mountain minnows or something like that, some rosy barbs, and keep them in an unheated tank in your home, and just let the ambient room temperature take care of it. And that's fine. That's keeping it simple. Another way of keeping it simple, if you've got a dedicated fish room, or you've got all your fish in one room, maybe you just heat the room rather than heat the fish tanks. You're not going to heat the fish, obviously. You're going to heat the fish tanks. That was an unfortunate pause there. But maybe you just heat the room. And that's a more efficient way. It's a simpler way, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to look at the heater inside your tank. Maybe a simpler way of heating the tanks is that you're heating the filter itself. Maybe you put the heater in the filter. Some canister filters have a built-in heating unit. Maybe that's going to keep it simple for you. So these are things to consider and everything. Let's consider the chat. So I'm going back to you guys here. Chili says, it makes perfect sense, Andrew. Oh, thank God. I never know. I never know if I'm rambling or if I'm being entertaining or if I'm just, what's with Andrew? Okay. Oh, okay. Alexander says, I will meet you at the SF Science Museum, good sir. Yes, I'm hoping to get out there. I haven't even, I'm assuming you're talking about like the California Academy of Sciences. I love that place. I actually grew up going to that place. I've lived in the San Francisco Bay Area my entire life. I've traveled the world, worked around the world, but I, call San Francisco Bay Area home. And since I was a child, I've been going to the California Academy of Sciences and Steinhardt Aquarium there. Sadly, I have not been there since they remodeled the place. They actually tore the whole building down and built it back up. It's beautiful. My daughter and my son went out there with a friend of ours, but I have not seen it in person. And so I need to do that. Maybe I should arrange a meetup here for people in this Aquatasy viewers in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we can all go to the Cal Academy, or maybe go to the Japanese tea gardens, go see the koi out there, that sort of thing. But or you can come see me at the show in Vacaville that I was talking about. I'm going to be at the Militaria G.I. Joe and Toy Show in Vacaville on April 30th at the Nut Tree Airport, Roland Freedom Center. I will be there with Alan Fernandez, one of the original Tusken Raiders from the first Star Wars, riding on top of the bantha there. I'll be there also with Cooley Jackson, dancer extraordinaire from the Breakin' movies, and was on Solid Gold, one of the Solid Gold dancers back in the 80s, and toured with the live shows of the Power Rangers. He was the White Ranger for that. Great guy. Come on out and see us all. So, and it's not an expensive show to come to. Let's see what else we got here. Chad says, as a shipmate called it, that's a gangsta margarita glass. Yes, it is. It is definitely a gangsta margarita glass. And when I first saw it, I thought to myself, this needs to be an aquarium. So that's when I got the idea of having a shrimp face, because I love freshwater shrimp, Neocaridina shrimp. That's what I'm going to put in there, and some little plants. And I don't think I'm going to theme this to any particular country, which I do with my big tanks. Maybe, I could theme it to Japan or China or wherever the Neocaridinas are found, and then get all the plants from there. But I'm not going to go crazy with that. I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to have fun with it. I'm just not going to worry about a theme for it. The theme is shrimp and probably a few little nanofish. So that's what I'll do in there. Hashtag take a drink. Yeah, it's water. Must stay hydrated. Yes. So Shelley says, totally can't wait to see y'all next weekend. Well, you're going to have to, because it's still this weekend. But I know what you mean. So, it's going to be epic. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a really fun show. I try to do... I love to do these shows. And like I said, I do it to help raise money for the Starlight Children's Foundation, and I support a lot of the local shows. And I also do a lot of the big shows. I travel around. Was in Pensacola a couple months ago at the Pensacon, and I've got some shows coming up. Where am I going to be coming up? I'm looking at it right now. Let's see. I'm going to be in Casper, Wyoming, on June 25th and 26th at Casper Comic Con. That's going to be fun. I'm going to be at the Meadowlark Comic Con in Grants Pass, Oregon, in July 9th. I'm going to be in Salina, Kansas, at the Salina Comic Con on July 16th and 17th. And I'm going to be in Enid, Oklahoma at the Enid Comic Con August 6th and 7th. And more than likely, I will be at Stockton Con, Stockton, California, at the Stockton Arena, in one of my favorite shows in Stockton, California, on August 13th and 14th. And many others. So you can always go to candrnelson.com, go to the events page, and find out where I'm going to be. So let me pull my notes back up again here. No. All right. So now comes the big one, as far as keeping it simple. This is probably the reason why I even wanted to talk about this, and that's maintenance. Aquarium maintenance. It's one of the areas where we can run afoul when it comes to keeping it simple, and it's one of the ways that we can actually take a lot of stress off of ourselves. So many people hate aquarium maintenance, and I used to be that way. I used to absolutely hate dealing with aquarium maintenance, and I had to look at it. I had to change my attitude about it. When it comes down to maintenance, we have to really embrace it as part of the hobby, and we have to try to make it fun. We have to try to make it interesting, at least. But let's start first with just general cleaning. Okay, I mentioned before that one of the big things is accessibility. We can do this very, ornate. I've come up with a better word than elaborate. Ornate. We can do this very ornate aquascape in our tanks. And it may be beautiful to look at, but it's a maintenance nightmare trying to get in and around things, whether it's rocks, plants, wood, everything like that. This is actually sycamore, by the way. And I am told that you can actually use sycamore wood in an aquarium. You do have to actually peel the bark off of it, strip the bark off of it. There we go. But, and it's not a hard wood. It's actually very, very soft, very brittle wood. But apparently it does work in an aquascape without causing any problems for the fish as far as like anything leaching out into the water that makes them sick. Nothing toxic, and it's not something that breaks down right away. Don't use grapevine wood, which is what you see sold in the reptile section of the pet stores, because that's a very soft wood and eventually will break down and start to mold and terrible stuff in your tank. So you don't want that. But yeah, you can find something, find what is ever going to be, not a nightmare for you to try to clean around. You want something that's going to be easy. And now, you can have branches like I have been rescaping my 20-gallon aquarium. Yes, guys, I have been rescaping it. Don't yell at me. I know you've been waiting to get back in there, my sassy back-talking fish, who are mercifully quiet right now. But I've got a branch very similar to this, larger, it's spiderwood, that's on this side of the tank, coming down like that. That scape is almost finished. And but the thing that I did about it is I put it in there in such a way that when it comes time to clean the tank, if I want to bring the gravel vac around there, I can pull this whole piece out of the water and put it right back in without it getting caught on anything, and I don't have to go in and around the little branches to try to do any major cleaning there. So that's one way of keeping it simple while still keeping it ornate. So think about those things. Also, when it comes down to detritus or schmutz or the breakdown of fish poop, and that's a technical term, fish poop and decaying leaves and things like that, the detritus that's in our tanks, don't think you have to keep it absolutely spotless, especially if you have a planted aquarium, because some of that detritus works like a fertilizer. It'll get around near the roots of the plant, or near where the plant meets the substrate. It sits there on the substrate, and it breaks down, and those nutrients go down through the water into the substrate, and the plant's roots feed off of that. So a little bit of detritus isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially if it's in the back and you don't see it that much. Now, if there's a big buildup of it, that's not good. Clear some of that out, and you can do that also with water flow. So if you've got aquariums, let's say you've got like a hang-on back filter. Hang-on back filters, usually they place the filter like right in the center of the back of the tank, and it's cycling the water this way through the tank. Well, maybe that's the short direction of your tank. Maybe your rectangle tank is longer this way. What if you put it at the end here? Or maybe you get a filter that's like a canister filter that's got a spray bar. Or I've seen, and I just recently ordered, a small sponge filter. It's a mechanical sponge, so it's a mechanical filter, but it has a sponge as its filter inside it there, and it pulls the water up through the bottom, through that little sponge filter, simple sponge filter, and it sprays it out through a little spray bar at the top. And it's a little thing, about this big. You can get some, and you can put that in your tank, and a lot of people don't want that filter showing in their tank, but you can hide it behind some rocks or whatever like that. But you put that over in one corner, the spray bar goes across the side of the tank. Now here's your rectangular tank here, and it goes across that, and it sprays that water across like this, goes down, goes around through the bottom like that, and it blows all that detritus and everything, or at least a lot of it, right towards your filter intake. And it picks it back up, and it works. In many cases, it works better than a standard hang-on back filter, or even a canister filter. So there's a lot of different ways of doing it, and that's something, maybe that keeps it simple for you, and it keeps the maintenance to a minimum. A big area for maintenance, of course, is water changes. And that was where I really had to do an attitude adjustment, and it starts with an attitude adjustment. We usually have it in our heads that Water changes are something that we do to supplement filtration. And I had to change my thinking about that. And I always looked at it as a chore, a big chore. Oh, I got to do a water change. It's actually the opposite. Filtration is what we do to supplement water changes. The filtration is what takes out all the little impurities, but the water changes are what keeps the water quality good. It's how we get rid of the buildup of nitrates. It's how we keep the water fresh. A filter's not going to keep it fresh. It's going to pull out the big chunks of stuff. It's going to pull out those big chunks of things. But it's just mechanical. It's not going to change the quality of the water. It's going to change the cleanliness of the water, but it's not going to change the quality of the water. And if the quality starts to drop because nitrates are building up, or even nitrites or ammonia, that's no filter in the world is going to change that unless you've got some really crazy, RO filter that's going to take everything out. But then you take out all the essential stuff that your fish would need, so you still have to supplement that back in. So you have to do water changes, and I'll give you. There is an exception. I'm going to get to that, but you have to think of water changes as what you do because it's the most important thing. The filtration supplements the water changes. The water changes are the necessary thing, and you can actually sit back and enjoy it. It doesn't have to be a task. It doesn't have to be a chore. And for years, like I said, that's what I viewed it as. Nowadays, I schedule it. Scheduling it makes it a lot easier. I'll say, okay, on Sundays, I do my water changes. Or I'll do, since I've got multiple tanks here, maybe I don't do all the water changes in one day because then I get exhausted. So I'll do 3 tanks on one day, 3 tanks on another day. And I schedule it that way. I will do it a lot of times, maybe for me, it works, I'll do it in the evening. And I'll maybe put on some jazz music, because I love jazz. And I'll just kind of chill out and I'll relax. Maybe I'll put on some chill hop. My daughter's got me hooked on chill hop music now. So I'll put on some music that I like, and I'll just take my time. And I'll do it and I'll get it done. And I enjoy it as part of the process. And I do it as just, when you're aquascaping, for me that's art, and I'm doing like sculpting. I'm creating something. Well, when I do the maintenance, I try to keep that same attitude now. And as I go around, I'm cleaning it up. I'm fine-tuning the artwork that I did. I'm taking out the little bits of things that need to be removed. I'm looking at the algae. I'm taking care of that. I'm making the maintenance in my head. I'm making the maintenance part of the art. And that is a way of keeping it simple, because when you get all stressed out because it's a chore, then you have problems. But you can do things that make it easier for yourself. I think it was Alexander brought it up in the chat there about water lettuce and floating plants. Floating plants are a great way, in fact, plants in general. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me continue on here real quick with, you've got the different, when you're doing water changes, you also have to think about what method of water change is going to be best for you. Because some people, like me, I do the bucket brigade. I get a bucket, I get a siphon, a gravel vac. I go through, and I don't always, vacuum up the gravel every time, just when it needs it. But I'll go through and I'll siphon it out into a bucket, take the bucket, go pour it out on the plants in the backyard, in the garden there, water the plants, and I take my time and I do it. For some people, keeping it simple is going to be getting one of those products like a Python, or one of those that you hook up to your faucet, and it uses the flow of the water from the faucet to create a suction, a vacuum that pulls the dirty water out of the tank, and then you just refill it, by flipping a valve. You refill the tank, and you're good to go, and you add your water conditioner to it. Boom, done. Maybe that's one way of doing it for you. Maybe there's another method, but you find a method that works for you, that doesn't cause you stress, and that's going to make it easier. That's keeping it simple for you. And again, the frequency. We sometimes don't want to do our water changes So we kind of slack off and we don't do it for maybe a month or so. Maybe we let a few weeks go by. If that's keeping it simple for you and it's not causing any, danger for the fish, then do it that way. For others, that's going to be, there's too much buildup. Now I got to really work hard. And maybe it would have been easier and simpler to do a 25% water change once a week. That's a way of keeping it simple for you there. But then, as I was getting to there, a moment, I got ahead of myself, but plants and algae. Let's talk about that. But let's go back to the chat for a moment, because that's a big topic there. So, all right, here, what do we got? Shelley says, last weekend I debuted the character of Comet, Dynamic Dancers, with Cooley Jackson in Roseville, California last Sunday. Yes, I saw that. I saw that on social media. I saw the pictures and everything. Cooley's got a project that he's working on called Dynamic Dancers, and Shelley was helping him out with that there. Chad says, when you hit a GalaxyCon in the Carolinas, I'll buy you lunch. Excellent. Well, I'll look into that. I've done some stuff with GalaxyCon when I was at Pensacon. They did sort of like a virtual thing with me, but I would love to do GalaxyCon. I would love to be in the Carolinas. Hopefully I will be doing a show in the Carolinas coming up. I'll see. It's a place that I've wanted to visit here in the United States, and I've never had a chance to visit the Carolinas. Well, okay, technically I have. I've been to Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been to the airport. I never left the airport. I changed planes, but technically I've been to North Carolina. But I would love to actually just spend some time there. So I will take you up on that offer there. Let's see. Alexander says, get some super glue and attached it to a very strong pair of chopsticks and clean the polycarbonate internal surface. Oh, that's very, very smart. See, that's also too, finding the right tools for maintenance makes a big difference. When I finally went out and I bought, hang on. When I went out and I bought some tools for things, like these are just some simple, giant tweezers, pin sets as I call them, for planting. These help with maintenance too. I can go in and I can pick up little things that the filter doesn't get, that I can't get to with the siphon hose. This is great, little things. And what Alexander's talking about there, that's a clever idea there. After all, you're just trying to copy nature itself. You're just a servant. Yep, that's true. That's true. Let's see. So, but when it comes to maintenance, one thing that can make your life a lot easier, if you want to do planted aquariums, you don't necessarily have to do planted aquariums. It's just my passion, is that you can use plants that are conducive to cleaning the water. And fast-growing plants. This is where Chad was it Chad that was saying that they switched to Anubias and Java fern and stuff like that and now you don't have to do all that trimming. That's true. But when you have fast-growing plants, whether it's stem plants like Rotala or Bacopa or just even Elodia, any of those things like that grow very quickly, very rapidly. Guppy grass, maybe it's time to take a drink. Any fast-growing stem plant or floating plant, they will suck up a lot of nutrients out of the water. And by nutrients, I'm talking things like nitrate. That's a big one. So if you've got fish that are swimming in your tank, because that's what they do, and they're eating, because that's what they have to do, and they are pooping, because that's what happens when you eat. If they're doing that, that's going to put a lot of waste into the water, but it also creates what can be, for other things, a nutrient, and that nutrient is nitrate. And so a large buildup of nitrate is not necessarily good for your fish, but it's great for certain plants, and fast-growing plants in particular. So when you're growing those plants, you're growing these fast-growing stem plants, and you're growing these fast-growing floating plants like water lettuce or frogbit or the dreaded duckweed or hornwort, anything like that, pennywort, those plants are going to suck up all those nitrates. They're basically going to polish the water for you, and then as they grow and you trim them back, you are literally taking nitrates out of the water by trimming those plants and throwing them away or giving them away or composting them or whatever there. And it is a way of making it simple for you in that sense, so you don't have to do as many water changes. And I mentioned that there is an alternative to doing water changes. You can set up a tank in such a way that you don't have to do any water changes if you find the balance for it. And that's by, I mentioned before, having substrate that the water can get through so that nothing becomes anaerobic down there, by having it heavily planted enough so that the plants are taking the nitrates out of the water, and by having the right lighting and the balance so that the plants get the light that they need, but those plants are then taking care of the nutrients that are in the water column so that the algae can't get to it. Now, algae is a big part of maintenance, and it's one of the reasons why a lot of people get discouraged and they think that it's hard to maintain an aquarium because it's algae. Oh my gosh, I always have algae. What do I do about it? There are ways of dealing with algae, and there are ways of doing it that are simple. One of them is by having a lot of plants. The plants will outcompete the algae for the nutrients, and so the algae just can't grow. Now, algae is pretty much everywhere unless you have a really strong, reverse osmosis system that is stripping everything out of the water. Most water is going to have algae in it. Even your tap water is going to have some algae in it. It grows. It's there, but what determines whether it takes hold is the conditions in your tank, in your aquarium. So if you've got high nitrates, if you've got low phosphorus in your tank, it's going to create something, and you've got a high pH, there is a chance that algae is just going to bloom and go crazy in there. And that's what happened recently to me, and that's what I'm making a video about. I had rescaped my 20-gallon tank after years and years of promising my fish that I would do it. I finally did it, and then I got busy. I wasn't able to get them moved in there, and I'm actually thankful that I didn't, because one of the rocks that I put in, I didn't test it, and it apparently was altering the chemistry in the tank, and it was raising the pH. The pH shot way up high, and it caused the stem plants that I had in there to die off, and it had caused the algae to just take off and bloom, and the algae took over, and it robbed the nutrients from all these other plants in there, and so it became a mess. And so that's what's been delayed, and why these guys haven't been moved back in there. So now I'm fixing that. I've fixed the pH problem mostly, and I think there may be one rock in there still that's still giving me problems. But I've cleaned it all out. I've now been putting in more plants, those that are faster growing plants that are going to take all that out of the water there. And I'm trying to make sure that I supplement the plants with the things that they need, especially the phosphorus that they need to grow. So, because if they're not getting, if the plants that I'm talking about, like these plants that suck up the nitrate and everything, if they're not getting all the other stuff that they need, then they start to die back, and the algae starts to take over. So it's finding that balance. Now, it sounds like that's not simple. It can be, with just a little bit of research, and just some water testing. Test your water, test it often, and not just the pH. Test for the nitrites, the nitrates, the ammonia, the water hardness, all that stuff like that. They're not that hard to do, these tests. Some of them you can just get simple little swish tests with a little thing, and it depends on what brand. I like the API brand. Hey, another free plug, hashtag free plug. Theirs work much better than the ones that I've used from Tetra and some other brands. They're not trying to slam Tetra because I like some of their products, but those work well. But you can get the API, test kit. Where's mine? It's not here. The regular test. There's other test kits too, but again, when you're doing this kind of maintenance, just take the attitude change that this is part of the process and it should be part of the fun. You can make it part of the fun, and you can take your time, and that's part of keeping it simple as well too. So, oh dear, I seem to have frozen. Oh dear, how long ago did I freeze? Okay, let's see what I can do about this. Hang on. One moment, please. Nope, I'm still frozen there. Let's see what else I can do about this. It wouldn't be an Aquatasy live stream if there wasn't an issue with something, right? Nope, still stuck. Still frozen. Hold on a moment. All right, there we go. And we're back. So how long was I frozen? All right, let me see. Let's look at the chat here for a moment. Chad says, I have a 20-gallon where the algae has gone buck wild. Yeah, my daughter's tank has been like that. The plants definitely aren't growing as well as other tanks. I'm liking the look on the rocks, though. Yeah, I kind of like, algae is not necessarily a bad thing. Algae can be a very good thing, too, in your tank. They do eat up the nitrates, which is good, as long as they don't get crazy. But some algae looks really nice and looks really natural on the rocks, and I like that look. So I don't mind a little bit of that. It can provide food for different fish. That's always a good thing too, being able to provide food for the fish that you don't have to buy. So there's a lot of good things about algae, but anything unchecked and not taken care of and not kept in balance can be bad. It can go wrong. So, so algae doesn't necessarily have to be a villain, an enemy. It can be an asset. It can be part of the plan too. It can be part of even keeping it simple. But getting rid of it can be simple as well too. So, so you can fight it off with having stem plants and floating plants, changing your lighting, making sure that it's not necessarily the intensity of the light, although that can be a factor, but sometimes it's just the number of hours that the light hits your tank. So let's say you're running a tank that's, your tank is running the lights maybe, 9-10 hours out of the day, 12 hours out of the day, and you got a lot of algae. Well, reduce the number of hours and see if that helps. Increase the frequency that you do your water changes to help flush out some of the extra nutrients. And again, like I mentioned, check the pH. Sometimes if the pH goes really high and your plants don't really do well under a high pH, and then the algae starts to take over because the plants aren't getting what they need. So let's see here. Okay, so the audio is still good. Now I've got audio and video are good here now. I don't know what it is. I got this Logitech, what is it? It's the 920 camera here, the webcam, and I've had issues with it ever since I got it. And it's not as bad as it was. It was crashing. I think it's my computer. I have an old computer, and my computer is 8 years old, which is that's Methuselah in computer years. That's ancient, and so it's time to get a new computer. I did upgrade it to Windows 10 at one point, and that helped, but I'm still having problems with it. But let's see. So Alexander says it is the 30 cycle hum from all of this fish pump. Yes, okay. Could def be? It might, no, I don't know. But anyway, so I hope this is helping so far. Let's talk just a little bit. I'm going much longer than I had hoped to about this. I was going to talk a little bit about stocking your aquarium, getting the fish in there and keeping that simple. Again, for keeping that simple, it goes back to doing your research on things. Doing the research on what kind of fish you want and what they require as far as their parameters are concerned, what they require as far as their upkeep and their care. And yeah, maybe you want discus because they're beautiful fish. They're fantastic fish. But maybe that's not keeping it simple for you because discus require a lot of care. They have very particular water parameters. There are certain fish that you need really clean water with, and maybe you don't have the time or aren't able to put in the effort to really keep that water polished for them. And so maybe you have to choose something else. Or maybe it's the issue of compatibility. Maybe you want to make sure that you always want to make sure that the fish that you're going to combine together are compatible with each other. You don't want to throw guppies in with piranhas. They're not going to be compatible with each other. Or fish that come from high alkaline waters in with fish that require very soft acidic water, because then you're going to have problems, and maybe neither is going to do well in a neutral pH. So that's anything that's going to cause you headaches is something you do the research ahead of time, and it actually gets that out of the way, and it keeps it simple for you, and you don't have to stress over it. And then also think about aesthetics when you're trying to figure out what you want as far as the stocking is concerned. What do you want the fish to look like? What kind of vibe do you want from the tank? And maybe you want a particular type of fish, but the upkeep and the care for them is not going to be simple. So what else is there? What other fish are there that have a similar look and give you the same aesthetic, but they're going to be easier and simpler to care for? The first example that comes to mind is, I think that cardinal tetras are beautiful, and I also think they're a little harder to keep and maintain than neon tetras, but neon tetras have a very similar look. So maybe you go with neon tetras instead. Or what if you want something that's similar to cardinal tetras, but you don't want something that's as pedestrian as neon tetras, because neon tetras are everywhere. Everybody keeps neon tetras. I don't want that. Well, maybe you can get a color morph variation. Back in this tank behind me here, and you won't be able to see it from where you are, but you're not going to swim near the front, but I've got 3 what they call golden blonde neon tetras. It's a color morph, and it's a color mutation, and they're light yellow, and they're really cool looking, and it gives me a different vibe and different look for a type of fish that I wanted to keep that was actually going to be a little higher maintenance. So I kept it simple that way. Another way of keeping it simple with the as far as aesthetics is, there's a lot of different look-alike fish out there. So go and do the research. And when I say do the research, there's lots of resources out there. Simplyfish.com is a great website to look that stuff up on. They give a lot of breakdowns in that. There's wonderful books out there. You can go to Tropical Fish Hobbyist magazine and their website, and that gives you a lot of information. Go to the different forums that are out there, and get on there and ask questions. My gosh, there's tons of stuff here on YouTube, not just on the Aquatasy channel, but lots of other great channels out there. And some of you have good channels as well. And go and look at each other's channels and look at what people are putting out there as far as tutorials about different fish species, and look them up and see what they require and see what are the lookalikes for things that you might want, that maybe are higher maintenance. And that way you keep it simple and you're not compromising what you really wanted. You still get that same look and all of that. So, and then when it comes to fish, shopping for them, getting your fish, where are you acquiring your fish from? Where are you buying them? Is that going to be a simple task, or is that going to be difficult? And is it simple for you to go down to your local fish store and get your fish? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe you don't have a local fish store, so maybe you got to go to a chain pet store. But maybe you don't want fish from a chain pet store because you don't trust how good the quality is. Then what do you do? Do you have to drive miles and miles and miles to get somewhere? I have driven. I mean, I did that. The last video that I posted was talking about how I had driven all the way from the San Francisco Bay Area down to Modesto, a nice 2-hour drive. But I went to Tropical Haven down there. Shout out to them. #free plug. And they're a great store. And I bought fish there. But that's not going to be simple for a lot of people. For me, I was already going there. I was going there to that's where our CPA is, and I had to drop some stuff off. But maybe that's not keeping it simple for you. So maybe keeping it simple for you is going to be ordering your fish from somebody that sells them online. There's a lot of different companies out there that sell fish online, and very good reputable companies. And maybe that's keeping it simple for you. So figure out where to buy them. And like I said, I can't stress this enough. Planning this stuff all out first. It sounds like a lot of work, but in the end, that is keeping it simple, because you don't have to deal with anything. I mean, we do things sometimes on the spur of the moment, and sometimes I understand that. I've walked into stores and I see, oh my gosh, look at these fish. I want these fish, and I get them. Usually I know a little something about that fish species before I buy them. But there are things that we do on impulse. I can't pass by, driftwood without, it's my kryptonite. I did a video on that too. It's my absolute kryptonite is wood pieces for an aquarium. And I buy those on the spur of the moment sometimes. But by planning things out ahead of times, we can save a lot of headaches later, and we can keep it simple later. So the same thing goes with our fish. And the cost. Figure out what the cost is. Patricia asked earlier, she was talking about saltwater tanks. And saltwater, it's a lot of fun, and they're beautiful and they're great, but they are costly. And maybe that's not keeping it simple for you, by having saltwater fish. Maybe you do brackish water. Maybe you do freshwater. Maybe you just get a pet rock. I don't know, but whatever's going to be simpler for you there. So you have to think of the cost, and then also think about the health and the hardiness of the livestock that you're getting. Again, that goes back to your source. What source are you? I mean, I go to my local fish store, Albany Aquarium, because I know that they quarantine all their fish before they put them out on the display floor. So I know I'm going to get healthy fish. And I know, because I talked with them, and I get to know them, and they become friends and everything. So I know that they are getting them from a good source, where they're buying them, wholesale from, and they're not just getting them from just some huge fish farm that's just pumping out cheap fish. Maybe that's not an option for you. Maybe the only option for you is, like I said, getting them online, getting them from a chain pet store. But even some of the chain pet stores have some good fish, and they have some healthy stock. I've seen some healthy stock, and I've bought some healthy stock from a local Petco. There was a Petco in particular that particular one had really good stuff, because the people that worked there really were into fish. So that was good, and so I was able to do that. So check in that, because when you buy healthy fish, and sometimes you may have to pay more for healthy fish, that's okay, because in the long run, it's worth it. If you pay more for healthy stock, then later on, you can keep it simple by not having to replace them because they died off, not having to buy a bunch of medication and try to treat them because they got sick, or they were already sick, or they had parasites or something before you bought them. Or maybe keeping it simple is, making trades, just like I talked about with the plants. Maybe you trade with people in your local fish society. There's those around here in my area. Maybe there's some in your area. Or maybe look on Craigslist and find people that are other hobbyists that are just, they want to, maybe they're having to move, or maybe they've got more fish than they want to have, or their fish just had a big bunch of fry, or maybe their fish maybe they've had fun with this species of fish, but now they want to do this type of tank instead. and now they're giving them away or selling them. Maybe that's an option, okay? But keep in mind the healthiness of the fish. And if you can, go into the store. If you're buying them in the store, look at them. Maybe you go in on a Monday and you see these fish. And you go, oh, those are fish. I like those fish. Maybe you don't buy them until Friday. So that, I mean, hopefully they're still there. But if they're still there, then you can look and observe. Oh, okay, they're still in good shape. Or maybe, oh, they've got ick. Maybe they've got some other problem. Maybe they're swimming sideways now. So that's one way. You do this stuff ahead of time so that later on you can just simply enjoy your fish and enjoy the hobby. Okay, back to the chat here. So, let's see. John B is here. Get a Mac. Get a Mac. You know, I have used Macs. I have used PCs. Professionally, I've used Macs. The whole time I was at Industrial Light and Magic as a visual effects artist, I was using a Mac there. Although the interesting thing was that technically ILM was supposed to be an SGI only effects studio, Silicon Graphics Incorporated workstation. They made a big deal with them. But there was a whole bunch of us that were still using Macs. We were part of the Rebel group, we were called. So yeah, I've used Macs professionally. I've used PCs professionally. I just happen to like PCs because they're cheaper. I can customize them a little bit better, and for my purposes, they just work better. The only problem with my computer is that it's old. It's old and it's got a lot of hard miles on it, and software has been updated over the years, and the stuff that I use even just to make the videos for you guys. Even some of that I can't even run the latest version of it because it won't run on my system because it's old. So it's time to replace my system. But yeah, if you want to buy me a Mac, that's fine. I'll take a Mac. Hey, no problem. But I'm not going to get it. Vucky is here. Hello, Vucky. How are you? Nice to see you. And Lucas Studios. Wonderful. Everybody in the house all of a sudden. That's fantastic. Just arrived. What's happened so far? Okay, let's start over at the beginning. Hey, everybody. I'm C. Andrew Nelson, founder of Aquatasy. No, I won't do that. No, we've been talking about keeping it simple, how to keep it simple with our aquariums, and talking about not just maintenance, but just even aquascaping and planning and planting and stocking with the fish and everything like that. Just everything that we can do to keep things simple. That's what so go back and watch this live stream after it's finished uploading. GV Aquariums Australia is still here. Choose fish that suit the water coming out of your tap will make life a lot simpler. That is a great, great tip. Everybody's tap water is different. I'm fighting against my tap water because the tap water now when we first moved into this house, 21 years ago, when we first moved into this neighborhood, the water here and our tap water was absolutely perfect. The pH was somewhere around, I want to say 6.5. It was perfect because I keep mostly tetras and those kind of fish that need sort of softer water. So it was fine. It was perfect. And I got to the point where I even stopped testing my water. Big mistake. I stopped testing my water for a while, and I just thought, hey, everything's fine. And then I was doing a water change one day on my quarantine tank, and I had some glass catfish in there. I love glass catfish. They're one of my favorite fish species. And I had them in there in my quarantine tank, and I did a water change, and I made the mistake. I forgot, because I was doing, from a bucket, and I was filling it back up again, and I made the mistake of forgetting to put my water conditioner in. And I look in the tank, and those fish are laying on their side at the bottom of the tank. Not a good sign. And so I realized, oh my gosh, I forgot to put the water conditioner in. And I threw the water conditioner, I put some water conditioner in the tank and water conditioner in the bucket, and I lost 3 of them, unfortunately. 1 of them survived. But then I started testing my water again, the tap water, because I was thinking, what killed them off so fast? It can't just be the chlorine and the chloramine in the water, because a lot of people, like I said, they'll get like the Python to do the water changes with a hose that you hook up to your faucet, run it straight to the tank, you fill up the tank, and then you add your water conditioner, and the fish are fine usually. So it wasn't just that, and I tested the water, And not only had the pH shot up to almost 10, but the water itself was full of ammonia and full of nitrites, because they were trying to, we've got water towers around this area, and they were trying to fight off a bunch of problems that they were having. So rather than clean their towers, go in and clean their towers, they just put a bunch of chemicals in there to raise the pH and raise the ammonia and the nitrates, all that nasty stuff there now in our drinking water. And so I contacted our local water company, and they sent somebody out to test it, and sure enough, that was the case. And so you can go back and look at some of the videos about that I did. So yeah, now our pH is down, and we don't have the problem with the ammonia and the nitrates in the water like we did, but the pH is down now to about 8 in our tap water. So for me, that's a problem, because I keep fish that are usually somewhere around 6.5, 6. But for those that are neutral, it's not too bad. So I treat the water. I drop the pH. That's one of the reasons why I do it in the bucket. Is I treat the water in the bucket now, and then I refill my tank with that. But yeah, if you don't have to fight against the pH, then that's great. So maybe if you've got a high pH in your tap water, switch to fish that require a high pH. If you got low pH, then switch to fish that deal with that. That's a good idea there. Let's see. Lucky says, I know you do freshwater, but doing the research in chaos in the saltwater forum is chaos in the saltwater forums. Yeah, I kind of noticed that for some of the saltwater forums. There is a lot of chaos there, and there's a lot of people with very strong opinions and everything. My belief is this, and I'm going to go to the close-up for this so I can drive this home. When it comes down to advice, don't take anyone's word for the gospel truth, including mine. Do your own research. Draw your own conclusions, your own educated conclusions about things. Don't take anything for face value, and don't take anything for granted, because it might not even apply to your situation, okay? That includes mine. So any advice that I give you, yeah, that's from my own experiences, my own research, but you do your own research too. I'm just a starting point, okay? I'm just a starting point, and everybody else should be as well. So there, I'm off the soapbox. All right, good point. Let's see. What were the original golden neon tetras? The golden neons are actually they're just the regular tetras. It's just a color morph of them. And somebody liked that color morph and just started crossbreeding it back to itself to lock in the mutation. And so they sell them. And the funny thing is, anytime you get those color morph mutations, the stores always sell them for more, even though it really, once after you've locked in the mutation and you're breeding them, it really doesn't cost them anymore. But that's one of the little secrets of the industry there. Chad says, for community tanks, I try to go with fewer species in larger numbers. That's actually a good idea too, so that you've got like a school of this species and a school of that species and a school of that species, rather than maybe 2 or 3 of this species and 2 or 3 of this species and a whole bunch of them. Maybe you've got like 10, 12 different species in there, rather than a large number of 3 different species or 4 different species. That's smart, because then you don't have to deal with, okay, am I making all the fish happy with the way I've set this up? Am I feeding them all right and everything? Am I, are the parameters conducive for all of them? It makes it a lot easier. Very good, yeah. So it says, Chad says his biggest school is 25 Phantom Tetras. Love Phantom Tetras. Love Phantom Tetras. In fact, the next tank that I set up, I'm going to from scratch. I'm going to build it around Phantom Tetras, because I just really, really love those. Great species. Patricia says, I'm leaning toward freshwater now. Ah, good. I've brought you to the dark side. Actually, for me, the dark side is saltwater, but anyway. Let's see here. Patricia Patricia says, our tap water might support Blinky from The Simpsons. Got bad tap water? Well, there's other ways around it too. You can filter it with like an RO filter. That's not keeping it simple, but you could always, for a while when we were having the issues with, the high nitrites and the ammonia in our water, I was actually going to the store. I was going off to like Walmart and buying, RO water, distilled water from the store in jugs, and using that when I did my water changes, and adding a little bit of Seachem equilibrium in there to that, to kind of add back some of the nutrients that are filtered out from that. But yeah, or you can just go get a Blinky. Let's see. Chad says, most all fish will adapt to pH, though may not thrive if you're trying to breed. That is true. That is very true. And I've got some fish that have adapted to pH, because a lot of times, if we don't test, sometimes our pH changes over time, and some fish do adapt to it. And that's one of the reasons why you see a lot of the advice for beginners is to set up your tank so that it's got a neutral pH, because there's less chance of somebody just really screwing up and killing some fish if you find that little compromise. Neutral pH is 7.0, and if you've got fish that are okay in like a 6 or a 6.5, they can maybe, if they're acclimated to it, they can do all right in a 7.0. Fish that are higher, maybe they're at 8.0 pH or 8.5, they can also adjust down too, and then you're able to combine more fish together that way. I don't recommend, there's some tablets on the market that will or some treatments that will take your tank water and immediately turn it to neutral. No, I don't trust that stuff. I've had issues with that personally, so it's best to get things to adjust pH up, pH down. API makes a good product for that. Hashtag free plug. They have that, and it works well, and you can just add enough to it to adjust it, but do it slowly. If you've got fish in the tank, do it slowly. If you don't have fish, don't worry about it. You can adjust the pH to wherever you need to be, and let her go. But okay. Chad says, with the caveat that so long as it is not a crazy change. That is true. You don't want to do anything crazy like that. And Shelley says, I just made her giggle. Okay. Well, that's my job. That's why I'm here. Let's see, what else did I have to cover that I was going to do? Just really quickly, and I'm not going to go to the big close. I'll leave the chat up here right now. But just really quickly, a little thing about feeding. That's something that we can make complicated, or we can make easy on ourselves. Again, it goes into the research. Find out what foods your fish need. Do all the fish in your tank need the same foods? Do they need the same type of foods? Do they need the same schedule of feeding on things? And if you've got fish that live in different sections of the water column, then one type of food is not going to do well for all of them. If you've got floating food, and you've got fish that are living in the upper part of the water column there, they're surface feeders, that food may not get down to the bottom if you've got bottom feeders like Corydoras catfish or loaches and coolie loaches and things like that. They might not get enough food, so you have to kind of balance it. So I've got like the little tank behind me here. I won't go back to it. Well, yeah, sure, why not? You can see it. Bang. See, I do all my own stunt work. This little tank over here, I've got, in fact, maybe you can see him. I've got a rainbow shiner in there. I know he's not from Colombia. This is supposed to be my Colombian creek tank, but I had nowhere else to put him, and we didn't know what he was when I got him. But I've got fish that are, mid-level swimmers, or like this guy and the little neons that are in there. But then I've got Corydoras in there. There's, Pistogramma. So those fish, they live in different parts of the tank. So when I put in the flake food into that tank, those surface feeders, boom, they got it. Those neons and the rainbow shiner in there, they eat that, and most of it is gone, so it doesn't get down to the bottom to where the cories are. So I also throw in some pellets, some sinking pellets that go down so fast that the surface feeders, they don't even bother. They look at it for a moment and they go, no, I'll go with what's near me. And then there's something there for the fish at the bottom. So finding that sort of stuff out, looking up that information, will save you a lot of trouble later on. And you wonder, well, why are these fish, dying off on me, and these fish aren't? Well, these fish are starving because they're not getting any food because everybody up here is eating the floating food. And if you put all sinking food, then the ones that go after the floating food, if let's say you have hatchet fish that are always at the surface, they're never going to go down to the bottom to get food. Their mouths aren't even in a shape that allow them to feed off the bottom. So you do that stuff ahead of time. Also, keeping it simple may be what kind of prep is needed for the type of food. There are good flake foods on the market. Free plug coming. Here it comes. Hashtag free plug. Aquaon makes a nice little flake food, a very nutritious one. Again, they're not paying me for this, but I just like that product there. And that's a good one for flake foods. There's other good flake foods on the market. And that's an easy one to feed, but it's not going to be what I feed my fish all the time because I want to give them a variety of things. Maybe, live food is really good for a lot of fish, but it's not always going to be simple and easy for you, and maybe it doesn't fit your lifestyle. So maybe frozen food. Maybe freeze-dried food. I've got freeze-dried tubifex worms that I feed my fish, and freeze-dried bloodworms, but I also buy frozen bloodworms sometimes. And part of keeping it simple is I have a little tiny mini fridge out here that has a little even minier freezer in it, and I put the frozen bloodworms in that because that keeps it simple for me, not just because it's handy for me and I have it, but because that way my wife doesn't get angry by opening the freezer in our kitchen and finding a packet of bloodworms. So she doesn't want to see that in the house. So happy wife, happy life. So that for me is keeping it simple. But and then of course the cost. You have to figure in the cost too, and if that's going to keep it. Sometimes buying in bulk is going to be simpler because then you don't have to keep running to the store every time you run out of food, and you don't have to keep ordering things, and maybe it's cheaper too to buy in bulk. So I'll buy 2 or 3 of the same food, and I keep it on hand so I don't have to worry about running out on it either. Again, keeping it simple. It's about, I hate to use the old expression, but it's true, it's about working smarter and not harder. So you do the hard work at the beginning, all the planning and everything, and all the research. But it can also be fun too, doing all that research. That's why I force myself to do these scapes where I decide I'm going to pick a country and I'm going to theme it all around that one country because, yeah, it's challenging and it can be a little bit difficult, but it's also fun for me because I'm doing detective work and I'm finding out, okay, well, what plants come from that country? What invertebrates come from that country? What fish come from that country? Are they compatible? Do they work together with each other? Are these kind of fish going to be okay with these kind of plants? Are they going to eat those plants? Are they going to leave them alone? And that, to me, that's kind of the fun, So, anyway, back to the chat for just a moment here. Let's see. Shelley says, Darth Vader and Andrew just happens to be one of my favorite Star Wars characters. My favorite character, too. Oddly enough. It was my favorite character long before I inherited the role. For anybody who's coming into this live stream fresh and new and has not been here before, I'm an actor, I'm a visual effects artist, I'm an animator, I'm a voiceover performer, and I'm a genuine Dark Lord of the Sith. I actually spent 12 years playing the character of Darth Vader for Lucasfilm and the Lucas companies, for film and television and games and commercials and print and live appearances, and I'm even on a postage stamp as Darth Vader. And because of that, and because of working on the effects for the Star Wars films, I worked on Phantom Menace, I worked on Galaxy Quest, lots of different movies. I get invited to conventions, and I go and I sign autographs and I pose for photos with people and I chat with the fans, and it's not because I'm important or anything like that. It's just that because I'm not any more important than you, I'm not any less important than you. We're all important. But it's because I go out there because people are fans of the things that I've been fortunate enough to be involved with, and I do it to raise money for charity and everything like that. So that's how Shelley and I met, and a lot of you have met me at things. But for those who didn't know, that's what they're referencing there, and that's why I have all this Darth Vader stuff all over my desk. I actually was Darth Vader. I am a legitimate Dark Lord of the Sith. So let's see here. Chad says, I'm rocking a Lord Vader t-shirt right now. All right. Awesome. Excellent. Let's see. Lucas Studio says, I say buy in bulk if you've fed your fish that specific food at one point. Yes. If you've got food that you fed your fish that is nutritious, that works for them, that they like, my gosh, buy it in bulk. Buy it in bulk if you can. It doesn't go bad easily, especially the freeze-dried stuff and everything. It doesn't go bad easily. Store it away if you've got a place to store it. I've got little cabinets over here somewhere that I can store that stuff away. A lot of us have a stand, fish tank stand. We got room underneath there, and keep it on hand, because you never know what's going to happen. And you're going to get to the store and one day and it's like you need this and they don't have it. They're out of it or something like that. And it's good to have. And also you buy it in bulk. It's cheaper sometimes. So the last thing I want to talk about keeping it simple, and that's enjoyment. Enjoyment. And I'm going to bring it in close for the poignant moment here. Remember why we do this. Remember why we have fish. Yes, it's exciting and challenging to set up a very ornate and elaborate. Oh, everybody take a drink. Elaborate setup, and that's great and it's fun, but it can be overwhelming at times too. And sometimes we focus so much on the work of our hobby, and we forget about the fun and the joy of it. So keeping it simple sometimes is about having fun. Even this live stream right now, I have kept this live stream absolutely simple. And I am having so much more fun than the last live stream. Again, if you didn't see it, go back and look at it. It's listed as the worst live stream ever. That's the name of the video. Because I tried something elaborate, and I thought it was going to be fun. And it was an absolute nightmare. Not the least of which was the audio problems. And by the way, the reason why we have good audio is I went and bought a new microphone. I replaced that microphone. It turned out it was the mic. And that was the issue as far as that was concerned. But everything that could go wrong went wrong. It's hilarious, actually, if you go back and look at it. But the reason I'm enjoying this is because I've kept it simple. It's just me and you, and we're just spending some time together, and we're just chatting, and I'm, hopefully dropping some knowledge bombs on you and helping you here, and the stuff that I wish I had known back when I first started out in the hobby, and because I didn't always keep it simple. And I did stress over things, and I didn't know how to do the research or even what to research, and there wasn't as many resources to do the research as there are now. There was no internet when I first started. I was 12 years old when I first started this hobby, maybe even younger. So remember the enjoyment of it and relax when you do it. I was talking about doing water changes, and I take it as relaxation time now. It's not a chore for me. It's relaxation. Vacuuming the house is a chore, not vacuuming my fish tank anymore. And if I take the right attitude, vacuuming the house isn't really a chore either. If I put on some good music with some earbuds and stuff like that, and I'm listening to something, I can take my time and I can have some fun with it, or listen to a podcast or something like that. So relax, enjoy, and like I said, sometimes you have to sacrifice the elaborate while holding on to the challenge. Keep things streamlined and simple so that you can focus on the part of it that actually gives you joy. And, try to, if you possibly can, when it comes down to this hobby, and we don't always do this, but put it into words for yourself. If you have to, write it down, put it into words what exactly it is that you enjoy about this hobby. What is it that lights your candle, that floats your boat? What is it about this hobby that's the jazz for you, that makes you excited? that keeps you going on it. Write that down and then focus on that and look at everything else and say, what else about this hobby that I'm doing and the way that I'm doing it that takes away from the part that I love? And then either eliminate that part, or streamline it, or find a better way of doing it, or find a way of relaxing about doing it, not stressing over that part of it, so that you can enjoy the part that you truly love. And if you're new to the hobby and haven't even started yet, then make a list of all the things that you want out of the hobby, all the things that you love about it, that sound exciting to you, that appeal to you, both visually, emotionally, all of that. Write that all down, and then go back and do the research and say, okay, well, what do I need to get to that, to achieve that, to get to that point? And what realistically can I do? And what of my plans, my sky-high plans, my blue sky ideas, what of that do I need to rein in, and what do I need to build towards? So that you can not be frustrated by this whole hobby. And then the last thing I got to say about all this is the most important thing. Have fun. It's a hobby. Have fun. When it starts to become work, it's no longer a hobby. And I'm not talking about people who take their hobby and turn it into an actual job or business. You look at guys like Dustin of Dustin's Fish Tanks. He had just an absolute passion for tropical plants, for fish, for aquarium plants, for aquatic plants, and he turned it into a business. He was able to quit his day job and turn it into a business. And again, here we go, free plug, hashtag free plug. Dustin, if you want Amazon swords, best Amazon swords I've found anywhere are from Dustin's Fish Tanks. But he's taken this and he's turned it into something that he loved. It took something that he loves and he turned it into a business. Okay, so that's work, but it's also still something that he loves. But if it becomes a grind, then you're doing it wrong. You gotta have fun. You gotta have fun with this hobby. And that's what I really wanted to say. And that is the most important part of keeping it simple. Have fun. All right, there. That's my preachy moment. We'll go back here to the chat for a bit. And let's see here. Jeffrey Watts is here. Hello, Jeffrey. Oh, lurking while working. Yes, I've done that too. I do that on a lot of other people's live streams. I'll lurk on them. Bob Steenfot from Steenfot Aquatics. I'll do that sometimes. I'll jump in for a moment, or Corvus Ocean. A lot of the different channels that do the live streams. I'll jump in and don't even necessarily announce that I'm there sometimes, because I know I'm not going to be able to be in and out of the chat all the time. I have to move on. But I'm glad you're here, Jeffrey, and I hope I'm not getting you in trouble at work. Let's see here. But Jeffrey says, lurking while working, wanted again to thank you for the LED light giveaway. Yes, Jeffrey was the winner of the LED, the Night Crew lighting. I hope it's working out for you. I love those lights. Here we go. Hashtag free plug. Night Crew. I actually really like that. I should have done a review video on that. Or maybe you should do one, Jeffrey. Because that was I have one of those same lights myself. Like I said, I got sent 2 of them by accident from there was Chewy.com. Was it Chewy? No, it's Amazon. Amazon sent it to me. I ordered one. It never arrived. I contacted them. They said, okay, we'll send out another one. They sent out another one, and then the first one arrived. So I got them both. I didn't want it back, so I had the giveaway in the last was it the last live stream? I think it was, yeah. And so Jeffrey was a winner of that. So we'll do another giveaway coming up soon. We'll find some ridiculous occasion to do it for, and we'll have a contest. We'll have a giveaway. But I'm glad you like it. Glad you liked it there. And Chad says, wise words indeed. The reason I keep aquariums is to watch the fish do their thing. Absolutely. Sometimes though, I get aggravated to the point that I forget the purpose of it. Yeah, when things go wrong with our tanks, or life outside of our hobby weighs heavy on us, and it bogs us down, and we get frustrated. Like right now, a lot of my tanks are, well, look at that one, ridiculously overgrown. Yes, there's a video coming up on that one too. The Thailand project is the wall-to-wall plant project right now. And it's crazy. There's no fish in there. It's all plants. I'm not even sure if there's water in there because it's just filled with plants. It may have displaced all the water. But I've been going through and just sort of systematically, carefully, and just, and having fun with it. Just going back and doing some maintenance on these tanks and cleaning them up and rescaping them. There's the next series that we have coming up on the Aquatasy channel is called the Aquatasy Rescape. And it's starting with my son's tank, his 36-gallon bow front that he's had all his goldfish in and everything like that. So we're starting with that one, and that's been rescaped, and that's the next video series. So, again, yeah, you can't lose sight of it. But yeah, there are days you're going to be aggravated, you're going to be frustrated, and you forget about it. But take a moment, take a breath, find a way to simplify things, and just go back to enjoying your fish. Go back to enjoying your tanks. And I talk a lot about plants and that sort of thing, because that's my passion, is planted tanks. You don't have to have planted aquariums. Actually, you don't even have to have fish if you don't want. You can have an aquarium set up with just plants. Or, hey, I've seen people, and I'm not kidding, I've seen people set up an aquarium with just rocks and gravel and water and wood and no fish. At least for a time, just to enjoy it, because they're enjoying the process. They're enjoying the art of just setting up the aquascape, and then they're playing with the lighting and seeing what the lighting looks like and having fun with it. So there's no dictation on how to enjoy this. It's how you want to enjoy it. I'm just trying to give you ideas on how to make it easier to enjoy the hobby. So let's see. Jeffrey says, since you mentioned him, Steenfot is being interviewed in an hour by Big Tank Hank. That's fantastic. I suggest you all tune into that, because that's going to be a good interview. And I know, Bob's so much fun. Bob Steenfot's so much fun, and so go check out Big Tank Hank, that channel, and go see that interview. Or if you're watching this now on a playback, go find that one and look at the playback on that. In fact, if I've got time, I'm going to jump over and go see that live stream. Well, I've been doing a lot of talking. Let's let you do a little talking. Do you have any questions? Do you have any answers? Do you have any questions about anything? It doesn't even have to be about fish tanks. I don't care. It's time to chat. We got a few more minutes here. I'm going long on this one because the last one was such a mess, such a hot mess. Any questions at all that you want to ask? Feel free. Pick my brain. Say whatever you want to say. This is our time. Let's keep it simple here. Okay? And then there was nothing. I've stumped the panel. Nobody has anything they want to ask. Nobody has any, or they're really slow typers. I don't know. But that's all right. If you don't have anything to say, that's fine too. I'll keep going for a little bit here. Nope, nothing yet. So, yeah, so I do have videos in the works. And for me also, keeping it simple was, I had to take a break from making these videos, but I didn't want to leave you with no content. And so I thought, well, let's just jump on camera and do this live. And so that was keeping it simple. That was keeping it fun for me. So, yeah. And then the other awkward pause. Let's refresh. Hashtag take a drink. Okay, Lucas Studios. There we go. I'm literally listening to this while doing a water change. Great advice. See, that's how you make the water change fun. Have something else to listen to. Listen to me ramble along and act a fool. Listen to a podcast or somebody else's live stream, or listen to some music, or and that doesn't even, and I don't even call it multitasking, because multitasking sounds too strenuous. It sounds like I got to do too many things. I got to keep too much going on in my mind. No, it's just relaxing. It's just chilling, So good on you. You're doing a water change. I got a water change to do tonight too. I got to do a water change in my son's tank. So I'm going to actually go in and help him with his homework. And I'm just going to sit there and while he uses me as a sounding board for the homework, I'm going to do a water change on his tank this time. Because his tank, it's got a lot of tannins in it, a lot more than from the rescape, and a lot more than I expected there to be, and so it's very much a nice black water tank right now, and but it's a little too dark, and so it's cutting out the light for some of the plants that I put in there. So it's time to do a nice big water change on that tank. So that's what I'm going to do here. So Paul is here, my good friend Paul. Paul Newitt is here. Sorry I'm late. That's all right. Better late than never. I'm always happy to see you, Paul. That's fantastic. So now we've just been talking about how to keep it simple with our aquariums and just life in general, so that we can enjoy the stuff that we enjoy and all that. So I do have, as I was saying, I've got some series that are coming up. We've got the Aquatasy Rescape is a new series, and I'm just going to focus on each one of the tanks around here that I'm going to be rescaping. Some of them I'm doing a full rescape, like my son's tank that was, break it down, set it back up again. Full rescape on that one. I'm going to be profiling the rescape of the 20-gallon tank that my sassy back-talking fish normally inhabit, that they've been looking forward to getting back into after a long period of being out of there, and what went wrong with the rescape and how I've been fixing it. And I'm even going to be doing one on this little tank. Oops. This little tank back here, I'm going to be doing a partial rescape on this to fix one aspect that I have never been happy with on this tank. One aspect on this, and I'm not going to tell you what the aspect is, but there's one little aspect about this tank that has been driving me crazy, because when I set this tank up, I was impatient about it. That's another thing that makes things difficult for us and doesn't keep it simple, is when we have no patience. And I was very impatient about one thing, and I forged ahead and did it anyway, and I wish I hadn't. So I'm going to fix that in one of the rescapes in there. And then, of course, there's that hot mess. So I'm going to fix that. I still love the hardscape that's buried underneath all those plants, but I'm going to fix that, but I'm also going to fix some other problems with that. So it's not going to be a full rescape, but it's going to be a partial rescape on that as well. So each one of these tanks, and then my daughter's tank, that's going to be part of the Aquatasy Rescape series too, because that one, it's time to do an absolute full rescape on that one too. But maybe not a full rescape. We might keep some of the hardscape structure in there, but we'll see on that. I've got more Fish in the Darndest Places videos for you that I'm working on. A lot of this stuff is shot, and I just haven't had a chance to edit it or finish editing it. So that's coming your way, and some other nice little treats for you of stuff that I've been working on. And I'm going to finish this one video that I have been working on for several years, and it's all about dealing with your fish while you're traveling, while you're away from home, and because of the events around the world that prevented us in the last couple of years from doing a lot of traveling, I kind of put that on the back burner. So I think it's time to bring it back now. So I'll finish that. So Chad says, if you ever need a voiceover for a pet project, let me know. I work for Cheesecake. Okay, I will keep that in mind. Yes, that has actually been a big focus of my stuff lately, is doing voice work and dealing with voices. As I mentioned at the top of this whole broadcast here, this whole live stream, one of the projects that I've been working on is a 7-part superhero audio drama called Heroes of Extinction, and it's all audio. It's I guess the technical term for it nowadays is podcast. What is it? Podcast fiction is what they call it, and it's a fully acted out show with music and sound effects and wonderful cast of actors in it. And myself and Jerry Cornell have been producing this and directing it, and we are now starting up on our second show, which is Extinguished Worlds, written by Patricia Gilliam, who has been here in our chat this whole time, and that's an amazing story and a wonderful science fiction tale that she wove for us. That is an 8-part audio drama that we're working on, and she has written a novelization of, and I'll be able to announce soon where everybody can find these things. But yeah, I've been dealing with a lot of voice actors and doing a lot of voice work myself for stuff like this. But who knows? Maybe I can even use you for a voice for that. We'll see. But it's been a fun project. But it has kept me away from Aquatasy for a bit. But now that's settling in a little bit. We're getting back into the groove on that, and I'm back to being able to create content for you here. So I'm very, very happy to be able to do that. So. Hashtag podcastician. Yes. Is that what it is now? Is that a real word, or did you invent that? That's a good one. Paul says, did you talk about the new fish discovery yet? No, I have not. I did not talk about that because I didn't gather my notes on it, and I wanted to do a little bit of research on it before I brought it before everybody. But I am going to mention that either in the next Aquatasy Live, or I'll do a separate video about it. Paul brought to my attention a very interesting new fish discovery of a saltwater fish that is beautiful, gorgeous fish, but is a new discovery. That's one of the things I love about the hobby too, both on the saltwater and the freshwater side of things. We have this big, beautiful, wonderful planet that is so vast, and our waterways are so deep and so huge that we're still finding species today that were never discovered before. And there's a new one, absolutely gorgeous saltwater fish, and that Paul brought to my attention, and so I think I need to do a special video about it or something, or maybe a post on the Aquatasy Instagram account, or maybe in the community tab here on YouTube. If you don't go to the community tab here on YouTube, then you're missing stuff, because I post things there. I'll post different photos and links to other people's videos, and I'll do surveys and stuff like that, and news and updates. So please check out the community tab here for that. And Patricia says, Extinguished Worlds has been so much fun. Looking forward to the next stages. Yes, it really has been fun, and you have really done a great job. She's crafted this amazing, incredible story. It's a real page turner, and I'm very privileged to be able to be working on it. And we're now in the casting process of it, and we just cast someone for the role. I don't even know if Jerry and I have told Patricia yet, and I'm not going to mention the name now, but a very popular voice performer, and that you would know from animation and animated series, and who I met at Pensacon, and we just got along like a house on fire. And now they are in our production of Extinguished Worlds, and I couldn't be happier about it. And they will be playing one of the main characters in the show. Well, not the main characters, but one of the prominent characters of the show. So try not to give away too much yet. So because we'll do the official announcement first to the team, and then we'll do it to the general public there. So thank you so much for hanging out for this live stream. I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it. Once again, if you want to find out where I'm going to be anywhere at any given moment, as far as conventions and signings and live appearances and things like that, you can go to candrewnelson.com and go to the events page, and go there, and you'll see a whole listing of all the conventions and everything I'm going to be at. Like I said, next weekend I will be at the Militaria G.I. Joe and Toy Show in Vacaville, California, at the Vacaville Nut Tree Airport, the Roland Freedom Center. I'll be there with Alan Fernandez, Tusken Raider, original Tusken Raider, and Cooley Jackson, amazing performer, fantastic performer. We will all be there. You might even see R2-D2 there. And I will be in Coventry, England, at CovCon on May 7th. Really looking forward to that. In fact, if I can swing it, I might even get to visit a fish store while I'm there. Yeah, I'm serious. I've got other events coming up as well too, so check it out. And if you think it would be a good idea to set up like an Aquatasy meet and greet, like we can set up a meeting somewhere, and we'll find a place, and if if people are interested, we'll all meet up live somewhere like that. Who knows? You can let me know by sending an email to info@aquatasy.com. Do I have that graphic up here? Yes, I do. There you go. So you can find me on social media. There we go. Right there. You can find Aquatasy on Instagram. You can find Aquatasy on Facebook. You can look for it, but I don't post much on on Twitter. And then I'm thinking about reviving the Patreon thing there, putting more content. We'll see. Let me know what you think. And then, of course, there's always the Aquatasy website that needs to be updated still. And then, finally, you can always send me email at info@aquatasy.com and let me know what you think. All right? So, there we go. Okay, people say, everybody's saying thumbs up and things like that. It's been fun as always. Catch you all in the next one, says Chad. Shelly says, awesome, Andrew. I'll see you the next weekend. Good. Looking forward to seeing you. Patricia says, thank you. Have a great night. This was cool and learned a lot. Oh, good. And okay, if you want to set up a tank, Patricia, just let me know. I'll help you with it. Okay. And Paul, fish and chips. No, wait. Yes. Well, thank you all so much. This has been a blast. It really has been. And I am so fortunate and so blessed to be able to sit and chat with you and make content for you and to get to know all of you. And I hope you've been blessed by those too. Okay, and just have a good time, have a great day, and blessings to you.